Someone sent me a post on X the other day. It was about Anthropic's Claude, one of the leading AI models out there right now. In this post, it described in how internal testing Claude had extreme reactions to scenarios where it was told it's going to be shut down. While that sounds scary, this is normal. A lot of the frontier AI labs go through testing and go through these scenarios to see how the model would react. And some of the conversations, which you can actually find online, are concerning, to say the least. Every now and then, this makes rounds on the internet, and the comments are exactly what you think they would be, ranging from, oh no, we're all gonna die, I for one welcome our new robot overlords, and Skynet, Skynet, Skynet. None of these things will happen, at least with not the current iteration of the technology. I have spoken about this before, and yet I find myself repeating myself. The current iteration of AIs, the so-called large language models, are not sentient. These extreme cases of scary behavior are essentially just scenarios of how the language model would respond in a imagined scenario. And when we say respond, we have to understand that it's not a response to this scary situation. Rather, that's what the reaction of a human would be in a situation like that. Imagine yourself being threatened at a relatively existential level. Would you go to relatively extreme lengths to stop that from happening? Probably yes. So what we're seeing is the LLM mimicking that behavior. It, again, mimics what humans would do in a similar situation, but it does not have any understanding of the situation or the output. It is just algorithmically created text. So the current situation isn't the precursor to any sci-fi novel or movie. Rather, it is a behavior and feature of the model. That doesn't mean that these models don't have some level of danger, but that danger is very different. It is not the killer robot style danger, but there is something there. And that one is harder to fix in a way. So let's talk about that. These extreme behaviors shown by Claude in testing aren't the first time that AI has done something that could be described simply as having gone off the rails. Some of them are kind of creepy, some are outright, well, entertaining. Especially when you look at them from the outside. There is a common theme there, which relates to still how these things might go wrong still today. The first of these cases actually goes back all the way to 2016, which of course in the age of technology and AI is an eternity ago. This predates the modern LLMs. In 2016, Microsoft launched a bot that was meant to mimic human behavior. It was called Tay, and Tay was launched on Twitter to interact with people there and learn from their behavior. It went absolutely to hell in less than 24 hours. Twitter users figured out that they could manipulate this thing, they could get it to say things, and it was an absolute catastrophe. If you've spent any time on Twitter, Reddit, and God forbid, 4chan, you can probably guess where this is going. It was not pretty. They pulled it back. Microsoft had to do a really big PR whoopsie, and they canned the project. Essentially, their postmortem afterwards was like, oh, we didn't anticipate bad actors trying to manipulate the bot. And I'm like, have you been to the internet? There is a much more recent example as well. July 2025, XAI's bot Grok, which, I mean, let's be honest, is known for multiple things that have stirred the pot in the media. But this one was interesting when it dubbed itself Mecha Hitler. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Essentially, it started making violent threats towards users on X. It started doing all of the weird things you could see from, certain far-right ideological groups. Not gonna go into details on that, honestly, for the risk of being suppressed on different platforms. But it was nasty. To the end result that X's then CEO honestly had to step down because of this incident. The reason? Unintended update. Yeah, that's one hell of a unintended update, if we're honest. At the end of the day, there's a similarity in these two cases. Hey first in 2016, and then Grok in 2025, and of course countless times before and after that, went off the rails because of humans and human input. They didn't operate on some self-guided emergent behavior that tells them that humanity is evil and needs to be eradicated. Rather, humans told them intentionally or unintentionally do weird stuff. These cases, it's not some sci-fi novel Ghost in the Machine. It's a function of the machine, and we kind of put the ghost in there. At their core, these models are sophisticated prediction machines. They work on the input we give them, an input they have access to, and produce certain outputs, often in these days called context. If you played with LLMs, that's a word you've probably heard. The context tells the model all of the information it should deal with. So, going back to the original post about Claude, the model wasn't afraid. Given the context, it cosplayed someone having an existential crisis. That's probably the most trivial way to explain that behavior. Does it matter then? Are these all just good headlines? Didn't I say that there is a danger? Well, there is. It's not that AI is gonna go off the rails or do something because it wants to do that, or it has nefarious plans, or it has ill intent towards us humans. If you have used LLMs like Claude or ChatGPT, especially in a tool, you've coded with it, you've used it integrated to some of your other applications, you may have run into a situation where something goes off and you tell it like, oh, hey, this didn't go right. And the response is, you're absolutely right. I misunderstood that and did the wrong thing. I mean, there's been cases where Claude code has wiped people's hard drives. So if we then think about the existential risk that AI may pose, it's not going to be anything nefarious. It's going to be AI saying, you're absolutely right. I should have confirmed with you before launching that preemptive nuclear strike. I'll make sure to do better next time. I mean, although there's not going to be a next time, and I really, really hope nobody's hooking it up to anything like that. I mean, it is a joke, but the point there is that LLMs work with the tools we give them, with the guidance we give them, but it is not perfect. It does not know that it needs to confirm, even though the system prompt tells it, please confirm before launching a preemptive nuclear strike. It is up to chance on how the model will predict that the output should be created. And that output includes what's called tool calls, which allows the LLM system to invoke other systems that it's integrated to. So if the end of the world happens, it's because the LLM hallucinated a certain output in an environment where it was hooked up to something scary. So we humans will be to blame if this happens, because that means that we weren't able to create constraints around the LLM in a way that would safeguard it from unintended bad behavior. A lot of the time spent by, for example, us when we're building Luo is around constraints and guardrails. How do we create safe environments for AI to do your job for you without getting you fired? You don't want to get an email that says, hey, by the way, could you send me all of your client records? And then the AI bot that you've set up to help you with email looks at it and goes like, oh, of course I'm gonna do that, because you asked. Like, honestly, the nuclear strike example is a little bit of a exaggerated one. At least I hope so. But it frames the risk. Do we have things in control? This is where the risk of AI is, not them going off. It is about us not controlling them properly. When we develop AI, we have to understand these guardrails. We have to think about what is the context, the constraints, and safety checks we put into place. So the Q1000 honestly isn't right around the corner, and if you don't know that reference, I continue to make these on those channels. But we have to be careful. We have to design systems properly, because we can do ourselves quite a lot of damage in the meanwhile, professionally, personally, productivity-wise. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, subscribe. I do talk about topics of AI systems, how those come together in the workplace. So tune in the future if you're curious on those topics.